You're watching Amador County's local television network, TSPN.
Welcome back. I'm Mike Spence here at TSPN on historic downtown Main Street in Jackson, in case anybody's watching this on YouTube. And we're fortunate today to have CEO of Sutter Amador Hospital, I should say, Ann Platt. And Ann and I were just speaking about some of the local activities that happened at the Sutter Amador Hospital during the Butte Fire a few weeks ago. And you know, it's obviously going to be something that people are talking about for some time to come. And we had a lot of local stories. And Ann, why don't you share some of the stories, kind of the local employees and what happened there at the hospital, something on the lighter side. The first half of the segment was kind of serious. I think we could be in a little lighter, and some of the local people that really stood up and were so important to our community.
Well, as we've talked about, it was really devastating for people who had to be evacuated, and some people actually did lose their homes. Hard to make light of that. Two of our nurses lost their home in the fire, and one of our physicians. So that in itself is very upsetting to the rest of the staff. We had so many employees who were evacuated, and yet they still came to work. So they would be living in a trailer or living at a friend's home, and yet they would still come to work. And they would go and volunteer at the Red Cross shelter as well. We had folks who were up there, you know, working as much as they possibly could. We would get calls occasionally that they needed things at the shelter. So again, as I mentioned, we had that tremendous support from Sutter. We had shipments of blankets sent to us, and when someone from Red Cross shelter called and said, gosh, we could use some blankets, we sent up hundreds of blankets for the people who were staying at the shelter. So, and our staff would take it up there and help deliver things when we were asked. So I thought that was really remarkable. We had staff who worked extra shifts, who were evacuated and would still come to work and then agree to work an extra shift or have to stay overnight in the hospital because they had no place to go, and there were no hotel rooms. If you recall, it was very difficult to get a hotel room. We had staff who were a part of the effort to go out and pick up livestock, you know, take their horse trailer, drive all over the area in Calaveras where it was really serious to get people out of there, and I thought that was really phenomenal that they would do that.
That was the biggest part of my fire experience, having animals. The problem with having the road closures and not being able to get back into those properties to get the horses and the larger animals out, if people didn't get them out right away, it was a very difficult situation. And Assemblyman Frank Bigelow, you know, came at exactly the right time. I believe that was on Sunday, where he said, hey, let these trailers get through, but they were being held off. And Lawton Ranch did an exemplary job, and there were a lot of people trying to evacuate with trailers and couldn't get back in, and Assemblyman Bigelow's help was really instrumental in kind of getting those roads reopened and people back in there. But that was the key. Until these things happen, you don't really know you can plan, but until...
And the communication is always challenged. We were sending some of our leaders were going every day, driving over to Angels Camp to hear the briefing every morning from CAL FIRE. And we had someone else going to the Amador Fairgrounds to hear the briefing there. So just a lot of support. I mean, people saying, I'll go make sure we have that information. We had, as I mentioned, we needed a lot of air filters to help with the smoke that was in the building. At one point, we closed off the entrances to the building and we stationed a security guard there. We brought in extra guards so they could direct people through a stairwell to keep the smoke from, you know, when the doors open, there's more opportunity for smoke to get into the building. So that was helpful that they were willing to come in and do that. One of our contractors with Unger Construction, we called and said, gosh, we need more filters. The smoke is really bad. He left his son's basketball game in Sacramento, got a truck, and drove around to their construction sites picking up HEPA filters for us and delivered them to the hospital on Saturday, which is when we really needed them the most. So, you know, just every time I'd turn around, I'd hear another story about someone who had gone outside of their comfort zone and done something that was really helpful, and they did it just with such commitment to be a part of the solution to help people, and it was very chaotic.
Oh, so many of us were kind of isolated up country, and we had no idea how to help, and everybody was kind of looking for ways to engage and
Right.
to help, and we had a number of communications. The website was incredible, and some of the radio was reaching up country, but nobody really knew, what was going on from minute to minute, and
Right.
so the community really did pull together, and there was so much personal communications taking place.
Right.
And I received an email from our new supervisor saying, we had to worry about the particulate matter, and I thought, well, I'm not worried about the particulate matter in the air, but that's an extremely
It
important
is,
thing
yeah.
for elderly people.
People with
throughout the community.
asthma
Absolutely.
or sensitive respiratory. We had some of our employees who had to leave the county because of their sensitivity to the smoke in the air and the particles. We brought in a air quality industrial hygienist 2 times during the fire to measure the air quality both inside the hospital and outside, and both times we were reassured that the quality was better inside the hospital, which is why we kept the doors closed, and we tried to not let a lot of external air in.
Oh, that was a challenge, and
That was a challenge, yeah.
In terms of leadership and service, you and your staff exemplified that during the fire, and we'll be talking about that for some time to come. I mean, it was such an experience for our whole community, and that includes Calaveras County as well. And why don't we kind of break off on a different direction? And I know
Okay.
it's hard to talk about events and gala parties and things because they're not really celebratory. We had an event up country, the car show drive-in on the green, and we thought about canceling it, but it was an important thing to pull the community back together to hold those events, and nobody wants to look at it as a celebratory type of situation, obviously, with how serious it is for everyone. But you do have, at the end of the year coming up, the main hospital gala, which is a fundraiser, and it helps for the mission of the hospital itself,
Right.
and how you go into the next year, and it really is a big event for you. Why don't you talk a little bit about the big gala coming up at the end of the
Okay.
year? Not in a
End of the month.
celebratory manner. At the end of the month. Is
Yeah.
it coming up already at the end of October?
It's coming up at the end of October.
Oh, and I have a table there and
Yeah.
everything. I better get
October
ready.
24th, yeah, don't be late.
Oh, I know it's a theme, a costume
It's a theme
thing.
ball,
Yeah, I have
a trip around the world.
I tell how much
and-
planning I've been doing.
Yeah. Well, our philanthropy board has been planning for this event for many months, and it's to raise money to buy new critical care ventilators for our critical care patients. And so we have a lot of things planned. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, it's important that the hospital sustain our mission in the community, especially when we do have disasters. People are going to really rely on the hospital being there for them if they have an injury or they have a illness that requires emergency care. So we are going to continue to have our theme ball, and we will hopefully continue to raise. Our goal is to raise quite a bit of money. These critical care ventilators will cost about $80,000. So it's important that we continue to do that type of work while we help recover in the community. Sutter Health donated $250,000 to the American Red Cross to help with the shelters both here in Amador and also Calaveras County. And we have a lot of support for the Sutter employees who have been affected, those who have lost their home, and those who were evacuated. So I just feel really proud to be on the Sutter Health team with my team here in Amador. They were tremendous. They were selfless, and it was inspiring to me. And then to see how Sutter Health responded. Yes. Even we had 2 fires in Sutter Health going at the same time, the Butte Fire and the Valley Fire over in Lake County.
That was quite a contribution, $200,000. That was in
$250,000,
Sutter Health was $250,000.
Yeah.
So that's a big contribution. Sutter Health is a nonprofit organization where all of the money goes back into the mission and
into
the hospital
supporting
itself.
the mission. Yeah. Sutter has also given our local community $25,000 that we want to use to help with grief support and other ways to support victims of the fire now that people are identifying what they may need.
Well, they're a great model. I read the business pages once in a great while, but I saw Sutter Health is doing extremely well numbers-wise, and even as a nonprofit, the model is working very well. And the new facility out in Sacramento, you should be very proud of being with that organization. It's great for our community to have a hospital like that here locally.
I couldn't agree more.
What would we do without Sutter Amador Hospital here in Jackson?
We'd have to drive a lot further.
What would our community be like? We'd be very isolated out here.
It's a critical community asset, and I'm so privileged to be able to be the CEO here at the hospital. And again, I just can't say enough about the dedication of our staff, our physicians. We are here to serve the community.
I want to applaud myself. It's extremely important, and I thank you again for coming on today and talking a little bit about that and how important Sutter Amador Hospital is to our community and our county especially. And we want to support the events. The fundraising events are extremely important, and it just gives you one more reason to support our local hospital after talking about the tragedy and the fire that took place. And next time we'll talk about something a little more lighthearted, I'm sure.
Okay, that's good.
Look forward and keep a smile on your face, and thank you again for joining us here at TSPN TV.
You're watching Amador County's local